So I call bullshit. I just don't buy this guy named Jonathan that Alex Marr talks to. So Marr meets this guy. We're not sure where. I assume maybe at the OTO Lodge. Or maybe she just meets him around at like a bar or coffee shop or whatever. And he seems somehow, I get the vibe that he's associated with the OTO, but he doesn't describe Josh or any of those other people talking about his affiliation to the OTO. My guess is that he's a guy who hung around and he'd been to a bunch of Gnostic masses, and people are like, seems okay, without talking to him too much. I mean, on the other hand, I would guess that somebody in the OTO, the Alumbris group, was like, you're interviewing people. You should interview this whack job. So, who is this Jonathan character? He supposedly is someone who breaks in with a group of 15 people who Alex Marr does not meet to above ground graves, which are very common in New Orleans. And he takes skulls and body parts and he uses them as channels, or as he says, materials, in order to gather greater occult powers or to communicate with the dead. I find this interesting, in fact, because he's not like, the skull doesn't have like a spirit or entity. The skull is a conduit. The skull is a tool for which he can make these grander connections. So he gets the skulls. He has this whole process. Supposedly, he says he harvests the body parts. And to my surprise, he's using as his ritual manual the Greek magical papyri, which I have on my shelf too. So it's funny how much these translations of these Greek texts get used in contemporary modern magic. Now, I remain intrigued that he uses skull as a ritual implement. A skull is a tool. It is not about harnessing the soul of the person who had the skull. The skull itself is a tool that you use. Now, there's a funny old story that my PhD advisor was saying that he wouldn't mind if his skull got used by an Indian tantric master to do magic or to do religious practices. He's like, that's cool. And I know I've wandered around, especially in East India, and I've seen a lot of skulls in temples. And those skulls and temples are revered. It's always been unclear to me if they're revering the spirit in the skull or if the skull itself is a tool. Now, my buddy James, who left the academy, heard my PhD advisor David say, I don't know, I think maybe if I end up having a skull or something, that'd be okay with me. And he turned to a dude next to him and said, great. Aaron and I got to fight over David's skull when he's dead, which still gives me joy. Anyway, he gets these skulls and he works with them. Now, here's the thing. Necromancy is kind of an old and common thing within magical traditions. So necromancy conjures the dead, the spirit of the dead, and often uses skulls, in order to learn from the dead, from the information that they hold, or to bind the power of the spirit associated with the skull and make that spirit do whatever the heck you want to. It's kind of wild. This has always been dark in the West. And this necromancy is the type of magic. If you look through the medieval Latin texts, these are the types of rituals that are absolutely verboten. They are forbidden. These are the worst things that you can do. But like I said, skull magic's found that throughout the world. I mean, I've even been in Tibetan monasteries where you walk around a corner and suddenly you see like 4 skeletons set up drinking tea, Why? Because the dead are powerful. And there's a bunch of the same stuff in Catholicism in the catacombs of Paris or just in different monasteries throughout Europe. Protestants, not so much about the body. There's various reasons for that. So, like I said, skull magic is found throughout the world. If you go into anything that involves Tantra and Bengali religion in India, you're going to see a lot of skulls. So what they do is they make use of the dead. The skull is like a means to gather power and to connect with the invisible and unworldly. So what I like to think about is the skull or the head the essence of what you mean to be a human? I mean, let's think about it for a second. Why not feet? Why not knees? If you got a knee problem, or your knee is the essence of humanity. Why not throat? Why not genitals? Why not any of these to be the essence of a human being? Now, I'm going to argue that this character, Jonathan, is 100% weapons grade bullshit. So you see this a lot in occult communities. Somebody will come by and have these like grandiose, like unbelievable, but yet somehow believable talks about their practice. I don't buy it, but I respect a good story. So let's think about it this way. Alex Mara's in her 30s. You've seen pictures. She's very pretty. You got this weirdo who evidently smells bad because he's with corpses, but I doubt he actually is. And he's going to get talking to her, and he's going to play up everything about himself in a grandiose way. He tells a good tale, but, and this, be very careful on. If somebody tells a lot of stories and they're the hero of everyone, they're never the bad guy or the moron or the one by the side that just observed it, never trust someone. Never trust someone who's the hero of all their stories. Like I said, I've seen this. And if you lean in and smile and talk to these types of characters like Jonathan, their stories get bigger and bigger and bigger. It is a sort of like stage show. And they would even tell you, and I've heard this from these types of characters, they'll even say, so what if I'm lying? The story is good enough. The story is the thing that's important. So when somebody tells a really good story, be careful to not think of it as fact, because it is likely embellished. So Mar argues that Jonathan roots his story in just enough plausibility for it to be, plausible. And, he gets a pretty woman who's a journalist. She's from New York, as opposed to, himself. We don't know too much about his background. But yeah, he's going to play up and do his thing with her. And she over and over again says, I like this guy. I like this. He's picking up on that 100%. So Mar argues that he's embellishing, but it's about amount. She's like, I think he definitely stole 2 skulls, not 20. For me, I don't think he even sold. I don't think he even got 2. So when she says to him, as a proper journalist, I need some verification. I need to actually see some skulls and whatnot. What does he say to her? He doesn't react in any way unpleasantly. And he says, the request doesn't unnerve Jonathan. He simply tells me his role. I will show anyone anything they want to see. I'll teach anyone anything they want to know. But they have to bring me a human head that they've dug up themselves. Now, I doubt it. Because for a simple reason, occultists are lazy. Nobody's doing this. Like occultists, I'll include myself. We like to hang around and talk bullshit about like Star Wars movies. You could not get an occultist in any circle that I've hung out with to actually, one, commit to time, two, commit to an activity that's illegal, and three, commit to an activity that in their very thinking would defile themselves by touching the dead. I just don't buy it. It's too dangerous. It's too illegal. And being illegal is a big deal. And also, there's just too much work. Occultists tend to be a lot of talk, but really, they don't tend to do a lot of magic. Okie doke. Take a break.